this school will be safe. And anybody who gets involved in the thuggery that happened on Friday, anybody that gets involved, you have no place in our family, and we'll root you out.
An emergency assembly has been called at George Dixon School in Birmingham by head teacher Sir Robert Dowling. Some Somali pupils have been attacked by a group of West Indian pupils.
Yesterday, I discussed Martin Luther King. I wonder, had he stood on Friday evening and watched a small group of thugs wearing your uniform decide to go as a group and attack 4 boys just because they happened to be there.
Like many inner city schools, George Dixon is experiencing a new kind of racial conflict between ethnic minorities.
Hear my message very, very carefully. All 12 are no longer in the school. And have no doubts about this. You're facing your examinations. You're doing your coursework. Nothing in this world is more important to me than every single one of you succeed. But there's one thing even more important. This school will be safe. There's a tiny group who are throwing their weight about, and they want you to admire them. Don't.
The fight began with a small incident, an argument between 2 boys in a game of football.
It will not happen again. Is that clear? I can't hear a word you're saying.
Yes, sir.
I still can't hear because you felt you were too tough to talk. I will come and single you out if necessary. Is it over?
Yes, sir.
Each school has its own way of dealing with race. This head has a policy of 0 tolerance and believes every student has to take responsibility.
Evil starts in small, tiny ways. You don't buy it in a bucket in Tesco's. But you must take your share of the guilt too. Those of you who hang about, those of you who watch, those of you who don't interfere, those of you who say, it's nothing to do with me, I was just there.
The majority of young people, in my experience, they have no interest in violence or trouble in the school. And by giving them responsibility and by talking to them, most things that you don't want to happen in school can be kept at a minimum. You will never eradicate the vagaries of human nature where you have, as I said, 1,200 young people milling about together. You will never eradicate it. But your job is not to eradicate it. Your job is actually to deal with every incident and use it as best you can. Well, am I right or wrong?
Right, sir.
You think so?
Yeah.
Good. I think that the way to keep the school under control is to actually not see it as a group of people to do something to, but to see it as a corporate body where we all have responsibilities, the students and the staff, and we share the same responsibilities. Am I right or wrong?
You're right, sir.
Sometimes I'm never that sure, you know. Never that easy.
Inter-ethnic conflict is an issue for a growing number of inner-city schools, but it's one that's rarely spoken about in public. John Kelly Boys is in Brent, in northwest London. Here too, small incidents can quickly escalate, with students dividing along racial lines. The worst fight in recent years started with an argument between 2 boys, again in a football match. It led to a battle at the school gates with Afghan boys on one side and everyone else on the other.
When I got there, of course, I hadn't been briefed, and so when I saw the first person who was throwing a punch. I grabbed him because someone else was after him, and we ran like mad. I didn't know why I was running. All I knew was I wanted to get away from there with the boy because someone had hit him. So we ran all the way up here. I caught my breath and asked him what it was that was going on. And then he told me that a group of people were fighting each other almost indiscriminately.
How many people were involved in that incident?
There could be up to 100 people, because they were all pouring out, and some wouldn't even know why there was a flare-up, and still they'll join in.
And which groups were involved?
On that day, the boy who was attacked, he was Afghan, and so his friend would go and rescue him, which was what they said. We went to our friend to help him. Then there were black boys there who were on the other side.
Predictably, the most vulnerable groups are the recent arrivals. Refugees from Somalia, Afghanistan, and now Iran and Iraq. A Saturday school has been set up with lessons specifically targeted at these boys and their families, so they feel more confident and less vulnerable. There's been huge demand.
It has just literally grown like topsy. You know, we've tried to meet the responses, the needs of the community, rather than prescribe a curriculum for them. We've actually tried to respond to their needs, and it has grown from 25 people the first couple of weeks to 500. We have a program now which I think is very helpful in trying to get the mothers and the fathers and the youngsters, and I mean youngsters like 4, 5, 6-year-old children, accustomed to coming to John Kelly Boys.
The Saturday school has already had an impact, especially for the Somali boys who've become more integrated.
We find that when we have new arrivals into the school and they're all from the same country, they'll often group together, which is what's happening with our Afghani boys at the moment. And then after a period of time, that will stop and they'll become a lot more integrated. And we've seen that happen with our Somali kids. Now they don't stick in groups, whereas at the moment our Afghani boys are doing that. So if we can engage them in activities on a Saturday, then we'd hope that that would spread to activities which are done in the school Monday to Friday.
The school places a special emphasis on respect for each other's cultures and challenging prejudice. In this year's 7 citizenship class, they're talking about how the media portrays Muslims and its impact on the boys themselves.
So what we're looking at today in our lesson is there a stereotype in the media of somebody who is Muslim? So I want you to think about maybe what words, what sentences, what sayings you associate with this word. So I'm going to pass one of these to every table, and I want you as a group to come up with the words that you think.
2/3 of students here are Muslims. Their associations with the word Muslim are instinctively positive. For the non-Muslim boys, the words they think of first tend to be negative.
Okay, I think this group have got their hands up first. So if I ask Ahmed, can you start us off? What does the word Muslim mean?
Muslim means that they're helpful people. They pray.
Okay, so we say pray.
They celebrate Eid and Ramadan.
Okay, so if we put celebrations. Okay, we're going to move on to the next group now. Gentlemen, what words have you come up with that we've not already got?
They say that Muslims are terrorists.
Okay.
And if they have a big beard, that means they're terrorists.
I think Muslim means religious.
Cool. Some people think Muslims are murderers.
torture.
Muslim girls wear hijabs.
Some of these pupils have only been learning English for a short while.
Where do we get these words?
You know, TV, people, they show some Muslim bombing vehicles and buses, and that's why we got an idea to write down in the sheet.
Okay, so those ideas came to you from watching TV. So we were thinking about whether being a Muslim has changed since there's been bombings in London and the 9/11 attacks. What did you think about life as a Muslim?
The way that people treat Muslims, sometimes they treat them good, and sometimes they treat them bad. And some people think that Muslims are all terrorists, and people are suffering, and other countries, like countries in Africa that have armies, and they're ignoring Palestine and Iraq and all them.
Okay, we'll go quickly to this group here because I think Omar had something he wanted to say.
Some of the people are in other countries, they show bad pictures of prophets and all of that, showing that how they bombed them and all of that. And in Iraq, the American troops are treating the prisoners like hell. They're taking their clothes off and putting dogs next to them and telling them what to do and beating them.
I'm not pretending there haven't been situations around racism, but what I would have to say is because of the way that we try to deal with the young people and make them work with each other, it has helped towards having a very smooth and reasonably settled population.
For some, the solution is to begin addressing these issues early. Tower Hamlets in East London is an area where racial tension has been high. At Bangabandhu Primary, more than 80% of pupils come from Bangladeshi families. As in Brent, the newest arrivals are sometimes given a hard time.
We are normally dealing, actually, with, if there is an event, with a Bangladeshi child using racist language towards a Somalian. That would be the most likely scenario. Whenever there is a falling out, it is those children that usually experience the name-calling. The most common name-calling being black monkey.
The school's called in a theatre group to work with Year 4. They start by gathering anecdotal evidence from the children, which will be incorporated into a drama.
Has anybody seen anything that was racist going on in the playground?
In my old school, a boy came new to that school, and he didn't really know what class is he in. Then I told him. Then then I was playing with lots of boys, and he wanted to join in. And my best friend told that boy he can't play because he's a Somalia.
It's clear that a big shift has taken place within the Bangladeshi community. Traditionally seen as victims of racism, some are now dishing it out.
You might have a lot of racism outside in the community towards the group that's dominant within the school. So you might have a school where most of the children are Bangladeshi, for instance, and outside the school they're suffering a lot of racism, but inside the school they're being quite racist to children who aren't Bangladeshi and excluding them. They're like, well, people do this to us, so we try and do it to them first before they do it to us, and we keep them in their place.
Excellent work. Nina, if I could just have a quick chat with you.
Sir, it's lunchtime.
Yes, but it's an important matter. Come and sit down, please. Now, Nina, I was on playground duty this morning and I noticed you saying nasty things to Chantal and Zoe in Saletti.
I wasn't saying anything bad about them, sir. I was just telling them to get a move on because the bell had gone.
Really? Well, Nina, let me just tell you something. Move along. Just because I don't speak Saletti or Bengali, that doesn't mean that I can't tell that you're being rude about someone. I can tell by the expression of your face and the tone of your voice. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. Sorry, sir.
Yes.
what the drama does is it gives the children a chance to interact and rehearse different strategies, really, that they might use in the playground if someone is being racist. Do you want to come up here and have a go?
Okay.
Let's do that.
Good.
You sound like you know what you're talking about. We're going to take it from when Jack says, but my granddad would really kill me if I was talking to a Muslim person. Yeah?
And my granddad, he'd really, really tell me off if he found out I was chatting to a Muslim person or being friends with one.
Well, you were just chatting to her, and you were friends with her until you found out she was a Muslim.
Yeah, but that was a mistake. That was a mistake, wasn't it? I mean, if my granddad says I can't do it, can I? That's it.
But sometimes people make mistakes.
You say my granddad makes mistakes?
Yeah.
But I love my granddad. You cussing my granddad?
No.
Better not.
Why don't you go and have a go at talking to Nina? See if it hurts.
Yeah, but...
It doesn't hurt, does it, to talk to somebody?
And if someone is being racist,
the aim of the theatre workshop is to encourage the children to integrate before they reach secondary, where the pressure to stick together in their own ethnic groups become much greater.
We've seen this afternoon.
George Dixon's in Birmingham, a city that's seen street battles between black and Asian youths and is well known for its gang culture.
You won't be on the telly.
This was a failing school, but it's been transformed by tackling the community's problems head-on and by keeping trouble firmly at the school gate.
The fact that we live in an inner city, Birmingham, and there is a ghetto culture out there, and that sometimes that ghetto culture does spill into schools. Well, it did in the past, but now obviously it don't, because the head just won't allow it. The staff won't allow it, and the pupils themselves, I must say, wouldn't allow it. In the past, you had always a culture of you don't tell the members of staff what's going on. You don't share these things, almost like kind of honour among thieves kind of thing. You don't tend to get that anymore at school at the moment. If there's a problem and there's something that may kick off later on, you get pupils. Teachers will tend to know about it anyway through a gut feeling. But even if a situation where they haven't got an idea, you'll always get someone who will say to you, "Sir, there seems to be a problem with X, Y, and Z. Something might happen." And therefore, we're well informed. In fact, listen, some of you, look, there's less queues on the other, there's less people on the other queue. Why don't some of you go to the other one?
Teachers have worked hard to keep their ears close to the ground and to build a relationship of trust with students.
Okay. Teachers can always pick up on tension, so I think we were in the same lesson. I think there was something going on, and the teachers picked up on it, and then it was sorted out by lunch, because there was supposed to be a fight, but it was sorted out and nothing happened because the teachers knew about it. They got the students, and it all got sorted out.
If you find two people who are going to fight and have a fight, if you before the fight, if you sit them down and they both talk, you'll find out that both of them never wanted to fight, but because of maybe their friends, the people around them saying you should fight, you should fight, you should fight, people fight, then that's why they fight. So really, most of the time, clashes can be sorted out by just getting two people to sit down and just talk it out.
The school benefits from regular contact between staff and students outside the classroom.
I have a rule here, and it is a rule, an expectation of all staff, that wherever we meet youngsters in any part of the school or outside the school, we say hello, we talk, we don't walk on by and not see the youngsters. All of us, if we see something that we think is wrong, we will go and talk about it, we will deal with it.
I think it is a case of knowing what's happening outside of school, and from my point of view, I know about the gangs and I know about the different tensions between areas of the city, some of which all come together in George Dixon, so it is a knowledge of what's going on outside of school, but also making sure that if you do pick up on anything that's obviously linked to something outside of school, you scrap it there and then, as opposed to letting it run its course inside school. That's what you don't want.
No, you'd be easier that way.
Sir Robert uses assemblies to talk openly about problems in the community. He sees violence as the common enemy. Whether it has a racial element or not makes no difference. Ultimately, it threatens everyone. We're all potential victims.
Who can tell me, what does tension mean? What does the word tension mean? I stand up and shout. You're quite right, actually, but give it to me.
It can be a type of atmosphere and cause problems between people.
A type of atmosphere that can cause problems between people. That's excellent. Okay, well now, Year 11 are going to do a little sketch, and this is also for their coursework. This is also part of their exam work, so you can be thinking about giving them a mark when they're doing it.
Day saver.
Excuse me, can you come to the front and pay your correct fare, please?
40p, always pay 40p for a day saver.
I'll turn the bus off.
You're
gonna pay the fare. Come on.
Turn the bus off, then I already paid my fare.
Excuse me, you're wasting my time here. I've got a job to do.
I've got a job to do as well.
So just pay the correct fare and we can be off.
I already paid my fare.
All right, drive.
All right, listen. You're gonna pay the fare, yeah?
This is not your responsibility.
Nah, I've got places to go. Yeah. Excuse me, got time?
Taxi drivers, people on buses, being attacked, being assaulted, purely because people just feel like it. All of that creates tension, and all of that we have to keep out of this school.
The school recognises that it's tough for youngsters living in inner city Birmingham to avoid gangs and violence. 17-year-old Ryan Lewis says finding something he's passionate about, basketball, has helped him stay out of trouble.
Not really looking for trouble, but trouble might find me, because it's not even, most of the time when something happens, it's not because they went out looking for it or whatever. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just there. I mean, you can't help if you're on the shop and someone wants to try to rob your phone. You ain't gonna say, yeah, take my phone. Like, as much as people say, just give them the phone, stay out of trouble, don't get hurt. It don't happen like that. If someone asks for your phone, you're not having my phone. The first thing you're gonna do, they're trying to fight, you're gonna fight back. You have to beef, and then when you beef, you get into trouble or whatever, and that's what happens. But when you got other things to do, you're not in that situation. If you got something focused that you're doing, you've got a goal to achieve, you're gonna achieve that goal, and you ain't gonna get caught up in no mix-up business.
Ryan believes schools need to encourage youngsters to discover a passion and pursue it across the racial divide.
You need to push on whatever it is they're good at or want to get into. So if they're doing music, provide something for music. If you can get kids to communicate with each other and bond with each other and be friends with each other before the separation occurs, the separation is never going to happen, is it? It's about prevention than anything else. So if you get them integrating with each other and mixing with each other and playing sports together and whatever, or academically or art or whatever it is they're going to do, when they're doing it together, then it's cool, you see each other on the road, oh, well, go on, get me. But if it's separation from the roots, then when they get older, it's going to be the separation still.
At George Dixon, there's an emphasis on students sharing their experiences and discovering what they have in common, wherever they come from.
We can so easily misunderstand each other, because we have people coming here from all over the world, and their English isn't so good, and they're scared. Yesterday morning, there were 2 new lads. One was from Afghanistan. He was sitting outside the door, and he was waiting to come to school for his first day. And he was shaking. He was shaking. No language, no English, foreign country, and suddenly he's got to walk in. And we got somebody here that can remind us what that was like. And when you came, where did you come from?
I'm from Iran.
What was it like when you first came? Was your English very good?
Well, I just could say hi, and I could just say my name, and that's it.
What was it like in those first days when you arrived and you looked at the place and you thought, my God, I can't speak a word of their language? What did that feel like?
Well, unfortunately, I can't express my feelings because I would say it's about scary. I don't think there is a word that it can express my feelings at that time. But I can say about scary.
There isn't a word that can express his feelings. It's just scary. Maybe that's enough. Who came from
The heads heard about an incident involving a Somali boy and wants to confront it immediately.
He will tell you something that just happened to him for no reason other than the fact that he's from Somalia. What happened to you yesterday?
These two black boys came up to me. They start, I don't know, they came, they said, they want to beef with me, but I just ignored them.
Tell me, when you find that going on, do you find it frightening? You're never scared. I am. I'd be scared if I had a couple of boys coming up attacking me. Why do you think some of the black boys, by that we mean the West Indian boys, and the Somalian boys, why do you think they have so much trouble? We seem to be getting quite a little bit of it at the moment. Why do you think that is?
I don't know, because maybe they're jealous.
They're jealous.
He doesn't beat around the bush, he just tells it just as it is. He can't just hide from the truth and say, oh, I'm going to get away with it, or he's not going to tell anybody. That's not the case.
Yeah. He'll let everybody in the school know what's going on, so we're not kept in the dark. Everybody knows what's going on in and outside of school, which I suppose is really good because then...
like a family or something. Yeah.
In this school, we've got youngsters, some of you are sitting here, who've been through enormous suffering, enormous hurt. And yet you come together here and we cope. We cope. And I think perhaps the secret of it is just tolerating each other a bit more each day.
Because I think you sound like you know what you're talking about.
All the schools featured in this film have one thing in common: a firm belief that the difficult and sensitive subject of race cannot be ignored. Prejudices have to be challenged, and though tackling inter-ethnic conflict is tough, schools have a vital role and responsibility to do so.